Welcome to Startup Hacks, a We Global podcast. We explore the stories and secret strategies that women entrepreneurs use to save time and money when bootstrapping and building their businesses. I'm your host, Fernanda Carapina. Welcome back to another episode of Startup Hacks. I'm your host, Fernanda Carapina, and today I'm excited to welcome Priscilla McKinney. Priscilla is CEO of Little Bird Marketing, a digital content agency. With their proprietary source system, they create sustainable and predictable lead generation for clients who are part of their flock. She's also the host of the company podcast called Ponderlings from the Perch. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thanks for having me, Fernanda. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's so great. What a treat for me. So thank you for making time to come on the show. I thought I would start by asking if you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience a little bit about your personal history, where you grew up, how you got started in this field.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a what we would best describe as a Christian Von Trapp singing family. So if that tells anybody how bizarre my childhood was, I can neither confirm nor deny that there was puppets involved. So I had an interesting childhood and, growing up in different cultures. I went to 4 different high schools in 3 different countries. And so I think, my biggest takeaway from that was the sense that no matter where I landed, I could do it. I could take care of it. It was going to be somewhere different that I landed. And so, as I went, as I grew up, and then I actually put myself through school in banking, kind of started in finance stuff only because it was the paying job. But my degree was in cultural anthropology. And I really have always been interested in how we decide how to behave in society and why we do certain things and why we really make so many emotions based on so many decisions based on emotion, and yet we justify them rationally. And all of that just drops into marketing, right? So I got a chance to start doing some consulting, some marketing with one of the financial businesses I was in, and I was hooked. I love marketing. My husband could always tell when I came home that day and I had been consulting someone in marketing. I just, I was lit up and I loved it. And so when I got the chance, I bought a small business from someone else. And sadly, a couple of years into that, actually about 13 months into it, I stood on the side of the sidewalk and watched it burn to the ground. So I had to start over. And again, this is where, kind of being dropped to wherever you're dropped. I'm like, let's do this. I'm going to bet on myself. So that was the birth of Little Bird Marketing.
So let's just backtrack for a second there. So your business literally burned to the ground?
Yes. But that was 3 weeks after the F5 tornado here in Joplin. So we had already lost about 35% of our town in 22 minutes. And 3 weeks later, it was my turn. So it was quite a year, quite a difficult time for our community. And then also for me personally, here I've been helping some of my clients, get back up on their feet for the last 3 weeks. And then boom, it's my turn. So it was a very, very difficult year. Not one I want to relive for sure, but it really gave me a lot of clarity as, crisis does.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just ask you, are you a former corporate executive as well, or did you kind of straight out of school start consulting and that's kind of what led you into your entrepreneurial world that you're in now?
Yeah, I was never in an exec at any of the companies. I wasn't upper management when I really was, decided to open my own company. The company had sold and I was like, kind of left holding the bag. I did have, shares in it. So kind of gave me a transition out, but I was kind of like, wow, what am I going to do? Either I'm going to really, get corporate again and really, make a go of it, or I'm going to bet on myself. And so that's what I did. I started a company called Relay for Business that is a credit card processing company because I was doing more of what I knew. And I still have that business going today. It's a residual business, so it kind of runs in the background. But my day-to-day is Little Bird Marketing. I'm just the serial entrepreneur. I have a couple of businesses going, but my focus is here at Little Bird Marketing.
Got it. So you've been an entrepreneur then pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah, really. I would say that. I think the other jobs that I had were maybe preparing me, but they were really jobs that were just kind of getting me out of college and kind of getting me figuring out what this adulting life was all about.
And once you started Little Bird Marketing, can you walk us through a little bit about how that company actually grew? I'm sure when you started out, you probably had a few clients, and now I know you've built a very successful business.
Yeah, well, I'll take that compliment, but I have to tell you, I think nobody goes it alone. And the best thing I did very early in terms of building that was I had a really great coach. I reached out and I just knew there were things that I just didn't know. And this has become a lifelong friend of mine. Brett Baker has just constantly been not just my cheerleader, but really a challenger to me, asking me the hard questions and making me really codify what it is that I envision. What was this Little Bird Marketing thing going to be? And I just remember even this day, me thinking about how am I going to become a $100,000 business, which now to me, I'm like, that's so funny, after, when you pass that first million, you're like, okay, I can handle that. Then you get to the next million, and you're moving up. But, it's just the same at that first 100,000. And I remember the box I had drawn on a whiteboard of breaking that box down with how many clients that was going to take for me to get to that 100,000. And so those are some sweet moments, some sweet memories for me. Really kind of keeps me grounded with how far I've come. But I have to say, the biggest thing for me was, at different times I've been very good about asking for help. And that I think has made the difference for me.
Well, I'm fortunate to know you well and to know you also on a professional level and the kind of quality work that you do. Not that I'm plugging your business, but I am.
Oh, you can. It's okay.
But I know from personal experience, you're truly an efficiency master. And I have to say, I'd really admire the systems that you have put into place. And when you talk about the $100,000 milestone, or as a founder, you knew you have like these ideas in your head, which is first like, okay, making money at all, and then making a certain amount of money, and then growing and scaling and bringing in more people. What do you think? We're kind of jumping forward a little bit into the startup hacks, but I'm just kind of curious, what did you focus on once you hit that 100,000 and you were like, okay, we're good. Now we're going to build towards whatever the next number was. What did you find was really important for you to put in place in order to successfully achieve that looking back?
Yeah, I think, in the early stages, you can have a system and it's all in your head, or it's all on your notebook, or it's on your desk, or it's on your whiteboard. But to me, there's a transition there, whether it's at 100,000, depending on what you're selling, or if it's 200,000, or if it's at 5,000. I don't know what that is for you, but there's a point at which you have to realize that system, whatever that system that you have, it can no longer be in your head. It has to be communicated. It has to be codified. It has to be explainable. It has to be shared. It has to be talked about all the time. And, it's not enough if it's just yours. And so I think the next step there was just to say, how could I actually put words and maybe even put visuals to this system so that other people could start coming along on this journey with me?
And do you feel that really helped you then get to the next benchmark, which was probably $1 million?
It did tremendously, but I got to tell you, I had other coaches along the way there too. And one of them really made me sit down and do standard operating procedures, systems, this idea that, other people are rooting for you, and even your employees are rooting for you, and they want to help you. But when you leave them without a clear plan, they get frustrated, you get frustrated, and nobody can step in and help you. And so, I had another coach who actually worked for Saatchi & Saatchi, owned his own agencies, worked for Nike, like a really good experience. And I was like, at a time when I really couldn't afford to pay him, I paid him because I knew I couldn't afford to be without that wisdom. And he drilled home for me how much I needed processes that were repeatable. And this one gal, Christine Kane, another coach again, is, she told me, look, there's somebody in the company who gets to make it up. There's somebody in the company who gets to figure out how to make it work. And then there's someone who needs to make it happen over and over again. And that has stuck with me, helped me very much understand how if I really want to be that visionary, that person who thinks it up, then I got to find these other people. And I can't keep all of the good stuff in my brain if people are going to come along and help me.
Yeah, makes total sense. So let me ask you about the digital marketing piece, something that you're obviously very good at. Obviously, you can't be very successful these days unless you really understand how to leverage social media. And I'm just wondering if you could share your kind of top 3 do's and don'ts in the social space that you see clients or other people do all the time that really hurt their ability to effectively communicate and market their product or service?
Yeah, gosh, that's a great question. I think, again, kind of like I say that there's no sense in going it alone. Likewise, some people look at social media and they don't really see it for the power that it is. 4 billion people are on the internet every day. Okay, that's a huge platform. And then when you talk about the millions who are very, very active social users, I don't care what business you are, you can't grow a platform that big, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody else has already grown it. And so I think sometimes entrepreneurs, especially when they're starting up, they think, I got to invent it all. No, you don't. You can piggyback on someone else's success, on someone else's platform, on someone else's system, on someone else's idea. That's innovation, taking an idea and just tweaking it a little bit. And so I think that a lot of times these, in startup mode, people tend to think I've got to recreate the whole thing. But I just say, quit recreating the wheel. Look at wheels, and look at other systems, look at other platforms. Unless you're going to have a 4 billion person platform anytime soon, then you should probably quit trying to build your platform and start leveraging other people's. And so to me, kind of 1, 2, 3 for that, just simple ideas would be number 1. If you're a B2B, then use LinkedIn instead of creating a platform that big. If you need to get your voice heard, or you want to get out there as a thought leader, then get on other people's podcasts instead of starting your own. Or if there's a big audience, someone's, creating some kind of event or being a part of a community, then get into that community or speak for free if the audience is full of your ideal client. I think entrepreneurs just think, I've got to go, create that platform, or I've got to go start that podcast, or I need to go create that community. And that's not true. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually really great advice. And I think that really is key to the principles of some of the things that we discuss on this podcast, which is how do you save time and money and gain a competitive edge when you're bootstrapping your company and you have limited resources, and you've got to work smart, not necessarily hard. The thing about social media that I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand is how the social platforms share your content and the power of their algorithms to select certain people. And while it's great because you can target market, especially if you're buying ads, you're limited. Sometimes you think you're posting things and it's kind of going to your followership, and it's really not. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's interesting that you even would say that it's going to your followership, because it's actually not. And it's been proven it's not. If you have someone, for example, following you on Facebook and you post to them, the likelihood that they're going to see that post is anywhere between 1% to 4%. And it's fallen as low as 0.5%. So then it becomes the issue, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, I don't care what the next new thing is. The following somebody is really not where the algorithms are focused. And although they don't tell us exactly what the algorithms are, we can tell by the way that, there's KPIs that we can measure on social media. And so what we do know about any social media platform going on, any of the mainstream ones right now, is that they base the way you get seen and heard and amplified based on the quality of interactions that you get. So therefore, they're trying to reward people who put out great content, right? And also people who spark conversation, for good or for ill. They basically are saying, look, we are a platform. We want people to enjoy themselves here. We want it to be dynamic. And so, for the entrepreneur and the startup, you have to don't think about social media, what is it for you? think about what it is for the company. So for example, LinkedIn loves LinkedIn. Facebook loves Facebook. They have certain things. They are not a non-for-profit company. They are there to make a buck, and they want to run advertising. So they want people to have certain experiences. And you got to ask yourself, what experience are they trying to drive? If you can provide that experience, then you are going to be shown not